All right, guys, I got lawnmower engine trouble, and I'm afraid it's major. Let's tie into this thing and see what we got. All right, guys, so here's a quick little overview of how we got to where we're at. So bought this machine a couple years ago, scag, I don't know, was it Saber-Tooth Tiger, 72 inch. It's got the liquid cooled Daihatsu motor, which is basically rebranded as the Briggs & Stratton. And it's been a pretty good mower. We've had it for 2 years and hardly any issues, but the last time we cut grass with it, the very last time we cut grass with it this fall, it just quit running. Just like you shut the key off, just quit running. And now it has no compression across all cylinders, nothing. It just free spins. Look, there's no compression, just woohoo. I don't have any clue what's wrong with it, but we're gonna start our investigation in the valve train. So we're gonna pull the valve cover off of it, see if we can find out something simple is going on there, and keep digging into it until we figure out what it is. Let's do it. All right, guys, we got the valve cover off. It don't take long to figure out we got some problems here. I don't know if you can see that valve right there, but it is stuck down. It should be up like this one. See how much far it's down? Which means it's probably bent, or a good possibility it's made contact with a piston. And this one here, the push rod's out. See how loose that is? I don't really know for sure what's going on. A couple different things could have happened. It could have been an over rev situation, but all the governor linkage and everything there seems to be working fine. There's a chance the valve adjustment could have got out so much that it jumped out of this little cup over here. There's a few nicks on the top of this thing, like it possibly landed on top of this push rod. And that would have changed the adjustment and possibly pushed it down too far. But nevertheless, the reason why it happened. So now we got to get it out of there. So I think what I'm going to probably try to do is just leave the manifolds on it for now. We'll pull the head off the top of the engine and do some investigating and see how deep the damage goes. All right, guys, I've never worked on these engines before because I'm just kind of fumbling my way through it. Can't even talk today. Apologize for that. Me and the old dog, we're just hanging out here in the shop. It's kind of a nasty rainy day outside, isn't it? Isn't it? You're awful quiet today. You're actually being good. Too bad you can't use wrenches. All right, enough dog chat. But basically, I went ahead and pulled the radiator out. I don't know if I had to do that, but it was easy to pull out. It's 2 pins. So far, this thing's been really pleasant to work on. I think I'm going to take off all this throttle assembly. I actually unhooked the throttle linkage and the choke linkage. I think I'm going to leave all the cables hooked up. Just pull this off, set it to the side. And I got a few wires up here on the water pump. I guess it's a temperature sensor. Is most likely what that is. And then there's a coolant line that goes back in there somewhere. It's right there. I got to figure out where that's at. Take the belt off. I think I'm going to leave the manifold, the intake manifold, the exhaust manifold, and the water pump. For right now, I'm just going to leave that on the head. I don't see any reason to take that off until we get it apart and find out whether we need head or we just need valves or what we need. So that's kind of my process of attack. So I think I got everything disconnected I need to have disconnected. We got the fuel line, vacuum line, choke, throttle, temperature sensor wire. We got the throttle linkages off, spark plugs are disconnected. And over here on the other side, I got this alternator bracket loose, got it pulled back, and I went ahead and pulled the fan off to give me a little bit more room to work. So we're gonna buzz these bolts off here. We should be able to pull the rocker assembly off, and then we'll buzz all the head bolts off, and hopefully that thing will come off there. We'll see what kind of damage we're dealing with. All right, guys, I got the head off, and I do not see much damage to the pistons, and the sleeves actually look, or the cylinders actually look pretty good. But if you come over here and look at the head, it's quite obvious where our problem's at. Those are not supposed to be sticking up. They're supposed to be down. So what I need to do at this point is pull that out of there and find out. Hopefully it's just the valve that's damaged and it's a pretty quick, easy fix. That may be wishful thinking, I don't know for sure, but I'm gonna try to get the spring off the other side and get the valve pulled out of there, and we'll see if we're shopping for a whole new head or just a couple new valves. I don't actually have the proper tool to do this, a spring compressor. I'll probably have to get one to put it back, but basically I got a socket underneath there so that valve don't go down. So I'm going to try to push this down with my hand, and oh, there they go. Get that little keeper out of there, right there. There's the valve spring. And it should go all out the bottom. All right, guys, after getting this thing apart and getting these valves out of here, I can tell you exactly what happened to this thing. Exactly what happened. And if you want me to be honest with you, it's self-inflicted. It's not the engine's fault. It's not an operator's fault. It's nobody's fault, but the guy taking care of it. So these valves that were stuck, these right here, these are the exhaust valves. And they were stuck because they were rusted. And they are rusted because the muffler has a hole in it right there. So you guessed it, at some point, this thing sat outside, water come down in there, went over, and rusted the stems of these valves. And that rust was enough to cause those to hang, which then caused it not to have compression and everything just to go haywire. So the valves aren't bent, keepers are good, springs are still good, valve seals seem to be good. A little bit of emery cloth cleaned them right up. I do have one bent push rod, so I'm going to order a few parts and order a new muffler, and we'll put this thing back together, but we may get off pretty cheap on this one, believe it or not. So it'll always be worse, but that's where we're at. That's why it's important to keep the rain out of the exhaust pipe. Learn from my mistakes. Don't make the same one. All right, guys, it's like 2 weeks later, and I finally rounded up some parts. Let me tell you, rounding up parts for this thing wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. I went to the local Briggs & Stratton dealer, and they want to know my kid's social security number, my date of birth, bank account information. It was crazy. I did not have that with me, so I did not get no parts that day. But I went online. I found this awesome website online. It's called Jack's Small Engines. They had total breakdowns of everything. Ordered everything online, like hot diggity dog. That was simple. Well, guess what? Didn't get all the parts I needed. So then I went back to the local dealership, and they were nice enough to help me out. Got all the parts I needed, and then Cleveland was nice enough to drop some underneath the shelf at the office.
I got a picture. Hey, I'm trying to cook over here, man.
So, anyways, yeah. So finally, long story short, after like 3 weeks, we finally got all the parts. I've got the block cleaned up. I got the head cleaned up over here. So since I got the valves out of this thing, I think what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and lap these valves just to make sure they're seating good. I got them all freed up where they're moving good. But lapping valves is basically taking valve lapping compound or grinding compound, however you want to do it. And this little plunger thing And basically all I'm going to do is just kind of clean that seat up there a little bit to make sure that thing seats in there. Let's do it. Alright, I don't know if you guys can see it. I'll try to show you the difference. See how that one's nice and shiny right there where it mates into there? And this one is not nice and shiny. It's still all dirty. That's the difference between one that's been lapped and one that hasn't. So, one down. One to go. Can you see the difference, Captain?
I just can't believe you didn't mill your heads.
I did mill the heads now that he brings this up, but I did check them for flatness, straightness, cracks, and any disforminations.
Disforminations, yeah.
I may have made that word up. It's not disforminations, it's, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's not broke. We'll just go with that.
That's fine.
All right, guys, we're going to put these valves back in, and I don't have a valve spring. Can't talk. I just can't talk today. Valve, spring, compression, tool. But I do have two thumbs, and I got a helper.
Hey,
and I got a 7/16 Williams socket. So basically, we're going to go pretty redneck on this. I got a socket holding the valve up, which it's holding it up tight in the seat. On these particular engines, there is a little spacer washer down there, which I got in. You got the valve spring, what they call the retainer. And then you got the two keepers. And the way these keepers work, there's a real small groove in the valve right there. And these keepers have got a real small little groove in them. And they're wedge shaped. So I'll push that valve spring down, and Cleveland will put a keeper on either side. I'll let it back up. It should wedge itself in there. You ready?
Oh dear God.
All right, a couple things when you get these in here. First thing you want to do is make sure you got safety glasses on.
Yep, check.
And then you want to just tap them a few times. Make sure they're good. It's like a musical instrument.
Sounds out of time.
It's definitely out of tune. All right, guys, so next thing we need to do is obviously get the head gasket on and the head. I've got this all cleaned up, and luckily, look at that. The factory put the pistons in the right way. They're all facing the same direction. This is kind of a goofy little head gasket. It's a laminated metal gasket. I've seen a few of them before, but it'll basically only go in here one way. It lines up on the dowel pins there. So we'll set that down on there. We will go over and get the head, come back and set it on. All right, guys, got the head on, got all the cylinder bolts in. One thing you want to make sure is there's no antifreeze or fluid, anything down there. If you tighten one of those down with fluid in, you could possibly crack the block. But I was able to go online, see if I can pull it up here. Hope I don't show you guys an inappropriate picture. Nope, there it is. Basically found a chart online. It's got all the specs on it, and right there, 26 foot-pounds. So we've got the trusty old Mac impact, or not impact, dang it, torque wrench. Set to 26 foot-pounds. Basically, we want to start in the center, and we'll work our way out in a circle until we get them all torqued. So here we go. Oh, there it is. Look. Well, I'll warn it. Yeah. I'm trying to get all the way. I wasn't going to go all the way. Right. Yep. Why don't you come to me, and I'll check one in the morning, and then maybe I'll set your house, fix everything, and then you got it around? Yeah. I would say it's probably going to be around 1 o'clock. Something like this. I'll, yes, I'll do that over there.
Oh, how am I working at the Taj Mahal?
Are you amazed by my funnel selection?
Never in the 17 years that I've known you have you had this many options of funnels.
Maybe you never asked.
Well, that is possible.
All right, guys, we got the head torqued down. The next thing we need to do is put all the push rods in. I've actually got these in the order. I took them out, and I did check them to make sure none of them were bent since we had issues. So basically, they'll just drop down in those little holes right there, like so. Oh, yeah. Oh, skipped one. That was almost bad. There we go. There we go. Now, the next thing we need to do is there's actually little bitty caps that goes on top of these valves that the rocker's right on. And we got them all stashed away right here. I did not label these. It probably would have been a good idea. You don't want to drop these things, but they go right on top of the valve like so. And that's what the rocker will ride on. All right, guys, there it is. All the caps, all the push rods in. The next thing we need to do is put the rocker assembly on. And these little balls, whoa, easy now. These little balls right here, that little nubbin, is what fits down in that push rod right there. And then that flat machine surface cap right there is what rides right there. So basically, we'll take, this will only go one way, slide that down on there like so. And we'll come over here. No, I got it. Okay. Why are you whispering? I didn't want to interrupt. Okay. Good job on not interrupting. All right. So anyways, back to production. Oh, now I'm stuck on the battery cover. See, you screwed it all. We got to make sure all these go in there like so. Not down all the way. That definitely helps if you're down all the way. All right, guys, I got them all started down in there. This is not going to sit down there tight because somewhere in this lineup, which I think it's this valve right here now, it's going to have to push that valve open. So basically, I'm just going to kind of work my way. You don't want to over tighten one and not the other, because you may end up bending that rocker shaft. Just going to kind of work that down. Nice and easy all the way across, making sure everything's staying in. All right, guys, got the rocker assembly all bolted down. These actually torque to 170 inch-pounds. So next thing we need to do is adjust the valves. And basically the valve clearance on this, I got it the same place off the internet, is 7 thousandths, and it's the same for the intake and the exhaust. And basically what that means is, first you got to get the engine timed to top dead center compression. And the simplest way is I just ran it through its stroke. So I went through exhaust, then I went through intake, and then whenever the piston come back up top dead center, which I can check with this screwdriver, I know it's a top dead center compression. There is timing marks on this engine. There's a lot of different ways to do it. I just pulled the spark plugs out because it makes it easier to spin over because they don't have compression. And I can actually just see the piston right there and make sure it's the top. So from there, I will take the feeler gauge, and this gap right here is what we want to measure. This one here is pretty good. It's got this little bit of drag on it. This exhaust one is too tight. See how I can't get that in there? So I'm going to bust this nut loose right there, and we will adjust that gap. So as I wheel this over, you'll see here, we'll do cylinder number 2. So we'll wait for this. There goes that rocker. It's going down on the exhaust. Piston will come back up. This one will close on intake. Piston will come back up again, which we'll check with this. Right. Oh, went too far. Right there. So now these two here are ready to adjust. Alright guys, there she is, all adjusted back together. She got spark plugs in. She seems to have compression. That's a good sign. I'm going to put the valve cover back on. I gotta get the new gasket in there because I don't want to be the guy that drops something down the engine that don't need to be there. And then we'll hook the rest of the few accessories up and we'll see what we got. Alright guys, before I forget, I'm going to go ahead and spin this oil filter off. I have a new oil filter for it. And we'll go ahead and change the oil on this rig because knowing my luck, I'll forget it don't have oil in it. Try to start it here in a minute. So I'm going to do it while I'm thinking about it. Just a little bit of used oil on that O-ring. You guys are ever wondering, yes, everything is twice as hard to do here on the camera. But it makes it fun. Nice and hand tight. Put the oil plug back in. I don't know if you guys can see down in there, but it goes in that hole right there. Last but not least, got the port oil. Cleaning pointed out earlier. Got a funnel section over on the wall, but what thing is that? Alright guys, there's the top end of the engine all back together. Got everything covered up so I don't drop anything in there. Pretty much good to roll and all that. The next thing I'm going to do is focus on putting the front of the engine back together. So we got the pulley, the fan, the belt, tension, all that all up, and all that goodies, and then we'll slide the radiator back down in there. Nothing too exciting there, but I'll set you guys over in the fender and let you watch here. Alright guys, we're getting close to seeing if this thing's going to make noise. Rephrase that, the good kind of noise, the kind of noise it's supposed to make. But you guys see me get the radiator in, got it topped off with antifreeze. I put a new fuel filter on it, cleaned the air filter, topped it off with oil. Man, I have made, for no bigger job than what this is, I've made an absolute disaster of a mess on the floor here. I guess that's a sign of progress. I don't know. But anyways, oh yeah, and then it was hard to record a whole lot of this, so I didn't do it, but I got the, what is it, this is the carburetor, the choke linkage. It just comes down to this lever and goes back to the carburetor. And this is your throttle. It was just one linkage and the spring down here. There wasn't a whole lot to see there, so I got that all back on there pretty much the way I took it off, but I can stop and crank this thing and see what happens. Fingers crossed. right, guys, awesome. The good news is it starts and runs. Bad news is we're just now back to where we were before. I don't know what, that's kind of the reason this, I was going to work on this thing to start with, is for some reason it didn't want to idle right. I don't know if it's got gunk in the carburetor. It's got good spark plugs in it and everything else is good. So I'm going to clean my mess up here, get myself resituated. I may even pull it over there out of the way. We're going to try to figure out why I don't want to idle right. And I need to get that muffler fixed because that's the culprit to most of our problems. So we're getting there. It's a step at a time. This has been one heck of an oil change, I'll tell you that much. All right, so let me get tools. Let me get regrouped here, and we'll tie into here. We're back to square one. Alrighty, I got myself moved away from my mess. Man, I made a mess for a little video job. And I got myself over here where I'm in a little bit clearer space. The next thing I think I'm going to tackle on this is the exhaust. If you guys remember, the whole reason we had exhaust valve problems is because we got moisture down in the exhaust. And if you look, it's all rotted out here. It's rotted out there. It's rotted out there. It's rotted out there. You get the point. It's in bad shape. So, here's the deal. That little bitty muffler, Briggs & Stratton, the scag dealer, $525. Sorry guys, I just ain't paying it. I went to the farm store, picked up this beaut here, 30 bucks. Now we're gonna have to do some modifying to make it work. Yeah, but not $470 worth of modifying. So here's my plan. I'm going to cut this one off right here. Probably cut this one off right here, weld it on, and then I'm gonna have to do some sort of little figuring to get my bracket back here so it don't vibrate and bounce off. But I'm thinking 15-20 minutes of fabricating, we're gonna have us a bargain muffler. So first things first, let's cut the other one off. All right, guys, you see it got the old muffler cut off. I got a suspicion that that may be all of our problems. I don't know if you guys can see in there, but the baffles broke off, which I'm pretty sure is restricting exhaust flow, which could, a symptom of that could be rough idling and low performance, which is what I got. I can't talk tonight. So we'll see when we get her fired back up. I don't want to fire it up now, so I don't want everything hot when I'm working on it. But got that cut off, got that cut off. I put a fancy little cut on the end. My thought process behind that is if that angle's facing down, should maybe help from some water getting in there. I don't know. It may be a goofy thought, but this is going to fit real nice. I don't know if you can see, but that'll just barely slide over top of there. Just enough I should be able to get a good bead all the way around that. And then we'll build a little bracket to go right there. By golly, we should be in good shape. Have another problem down. So let me get the welder drug out. I'm going to clean that up with a flapper wheel a little bit. We'll weld her off. All right, guys, as you see, I got that welded up. I don't know if I'd make it as a muffler shop mechanic, but it's good enough for me. So I got this bracket cut off, and I'm just gonna put a weld right there. That's not ideal. This is probably the thinnest, weakest part of that muffler. I just want something on there to keep it from vibrating and getting broke. I like to have it out here or here or here. Also like $1 million, it's just ain't gonna happen, so that's gonna have to work. So I'm gonna weld that off right there, and then we'll fire this girl up and see what she's got. All right, guys, there she is, all welded off. She's pretty solid. I think that'll do the trick. I'm not overly thrilled that it sticks out farther than the mower. The old one actually did a little bit too, but I don't know. Count my time in at $65 an hour. I got maybe $100 in that thing versus $500 for the other one. I'd still have an hour in changing it. I'm pretty happy with it. Fired up, make sure it works, but I'm pretty happy with it. I went ahead and put these supports back on. They actually hold the radiator. I don't want that thing to vibrate around and get a fan blade while we're in trouble. Went ahead and marked out my service records there. Let's fire her up, see what she sounds like. Guys, there she is. I think that dang exhaust was all my problem. She's purring like a little kitten, or the tiger that she is. But by golly, I think she's ready for grass mowing season. She sounds good. I'll take that one for the win, boys and girls. All right, guys, there she is, all done. That definitely turned into way more work than I was anticipating. I was going for an oil change, blade sharpener, and send her on out the door and let her cut some grass. But by golly, we got her figured out. Long story short, don't let your exhaust rot through. Apparently, it causes all kinds of expensive problems. But we got her going. Got about maybe I don't know, 175, 200 bucks in it at the most, and a couple hours working on her. Spent more time waiting on parts, but. While I was waiting on parts, what you guys didn't see, I got the blade sharpened, got the belts tightened, got everything greased, and pretty much everything ready to go. So now she's running, she's ready to rock and roll. So guys, hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Remember, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram. We also got dirtperfect1.com if you want some cool sweatshirts or hats or any of that good stuff. But yeah, that's it. It's a wrap. It's time to go mow grass. Catch you guys on the next one.